started on double boxes.
So you're going to start the show with a little sarcasm? That's how you want to get going?
You know what? Happy Sunday afternoon to everybody. Yes. Look at you already looking stressed with it.
Yeah.
Why is that? As I'm sure people...
It's my co-host that just gets me stressed out, so it's not a big deal. Big game.
I don't know why.
Big game. Big, huge game.
Yes, welcome everybody to Check In. I am Sara Orleski. He is Jamie Thomas. We are so happy that you could join us. So many of you already in the chat. It's great to see you as we get you set for today's game against the Seattle Kraken. You can always watch us on X, Facebook, YouTube as well. And we're really excited to get things going here as the Jets head out for 3 games now: Seattle, Vancouver, and Edmonton. They get things, as I mentioned, rolling this evening, and they're doing it coming in off of a big win, Jamie, against the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, it didn't have the fireworks that I thought it was going to have. I thought the Jets took kind of Dallas out of the game early on when they were up. They had that 2-0 lead, but I expected it to be a lot more chippy. I thought with the magnitude of the game that Dallas was going to get. Dallas was frustrated, no question about that, but they didn't really react physically in the way I expected them to. Thought maybe they have a little more pushback. And I watched, sorry, I didn't watch. I read the clips from Pete DeBoer afterwards, and he just kind of put more on them, on the Stars, rather than what the Jets did. Didn't give any credit really to the fans. The fans were fantastic on Friday. The atmosphere was amazing at Canada Life Center. But it was more about what Dallas wasn't doing. But I just felt, and listening to Kyle Connor afterwards and Morgan Barron after the game, it was more how the Jets just gave them nothing to work with. Whenever Dallas entered the zone, the Jets were right there, and there were a lot of turnovers at the Winnipeg blue line that the Winnipeg turned in transition up the ice and turned into goals too. And Pete DeBoer noted that as well. If you keep turning things over, and we've heard this from a Jets perspective, turn the puck over against a team as talented as Winnipeg, they're going to hurt you, and that's certainly what Winnipeg did against the Dallas Stars. It was a clinic. I don't think Dallas really had a sniff from even the start of the game to the end of the game. So I think we have to give a lot of credit to how well Winnipeg played as a team. I know Dallas was missing some pieces, but it doesn't matter. They won the game, now 10 points up on Dallas in the Central Division standings.
Yeah, I think arguably, one of their best efforts, or their best effort this season in what was the biggest game of the season up to that point. Yeah. There had been so much hype, and although players although they recognized it, also tried to downplay it. And it's true, it is just one of the 82 games that they have to play. Nothing was handed out on Friday night in terms of banners or cups or playoff seedings, but it was a significant game. This was a Dallas team that has been playing well, that has been, gaining on the Jets recently. We know that when you include Friday's game, there are 2 meetings left between these two teams. They now have the 10-point lead over the Stars. I thought it was the style of game that they played, and from start to finish, that was really significant. They set the tone, the top line. It was a game, the TSN pregame show, we discussed how Kevin Sawyer had mentioned how the top line, he felt, needed to elevate their play going into that game. They did. You look at the job that they did. And then you mentioned the atmosphere. While it wasn't a playoff whiteout atmosphere, because nothing can ever compare to that. For a regular season game, the electricity in that building, you could just feel it from before the puck even dropped. It had everything going for it. It was also a Friday night, of course. And, there's only 7 now regular season home games left. Next up, Sunday against Buffalo, an afternoon game. But I just thought from start to finish, this was a statement game for the Winnipeg Jets that continued to put everybody on notice that what we have seen this season from them up to this point has not been there aren't maybe the ups and downs. They've continued to rise to the occasion. They have stayed true to their structure. That's what we saw in the game against Dallas.
Yeah, and I even looked very similar in some ways to the last time these two teams played. Winnipeg got up to a 4-0 lead. Dallas didn't really have a sniff. They scored a late goal. Thought Connor Hellebuyck was close to shutout again.
I know.
That didn't come up.
It would have been a new franchise record. He would have surpassed his previous one. He's just waiting for it.
That was already in the 3 things article I had written, and then the goal goes in. So I had to erase that one. And then, pointing out the fact that Money Puck had listed Winnipeg's chances of winning the Central Division if they beat Dallas in regulation to 90.1%. So our unofficial question of the day to everybody watching and listening, with the win on Friday, do you feel the Jets' chances are like they're going to win the Central Division now, or is there still some room for error there in your mind? But I truly feel Winnipeg has a lock on the Central Division. There's a lot of time ahead here. I know Dallas and Colorado are playing here right away this afternoon in a head-to-head battle as Mikko Rantanen returns to Denver. There's a lot there. He's another guy like that. That was the big acquisition at the trade deadline for the Dallas Stars. I felt he was invisible, and that just goes to show you how well Winnipeg played defensively without Neil Pionk, we might add, in that game on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fun game to be able to watch and cover for it. So good on them. I'm watching you from London. Nice. Former Winnipegger. Hey, that's awesome. We love to see so many of you in the chat right now. And we did pose the informal question because, as some people pointed out, we had promised to have a question on Friday, and then Jamie and I got sidetracked with this
cool guests, so I totally forgot what was.
Well, we did, and we got sidetracked doing other work as well. And then all of a sudden, I saw it in the comment and thought, "Oh shoot, we had promised to have a question." So yeah, let us definitely know in here whether or not you believe that the Jets will win the Central Division. I like it, Carl. You just think about what the atmosphere would be around this city. And around, really, as we can see, there are people, many Jets fans that are no longer in Winnipeg, what the atmosphere would be like for Jets fans. But you mentioned Friday we had great guests. We do again today. It is going to be story time in just a little bit, is the way that I think that we should term it. What do you think?
I think so too. And I'm going to
Who is
preface
it? You got to say
our guest. So our guest is Brad May, former NHLer, Stanley Cup champion. Sarah covered him in Vancouver. Speaks
and
highly
Toronto.
of him. Yeah, and I worked with him at Sportsnet. One of the best guys, of course. As an enforcer, we always find out these guys are the nicest guys on the planet, and Brad May is no different. So the reason why we're bringing Brad on and for story time before we get into this game here tonight is Luke Schenn was on the podcast on Ground Control the other day, and he told a fantastic story. I'm just going to put it up here momentarily about how him and Brad May were roommates. And I'll let you into the story right now as we move along. Let's go to Luke, and he'll tell the story.
So when I was my rookie season, 18 years old in Toronto, we traded for Brad May.
Okay.
And he would have been 38 or 39 at the time. And I had a condo downtown Toronto with an extra bedroom. And he had got traded from Anaheim like halfway through the year. And I want to say he had like an 8 and 10-year-old daughter and son, and they were in school and activities and all that sort of thing. And what ended up happening was he came to practice the first day, and older veteran guy, 20 years older than me, and I went up to him in practice, just not even thinking. I'm like, hey, I got an extra spare bedroom if you want to come move in. And he's like, yep, I'll be there this afternoon. So I ended up Brad May moving in with me, and we lived together for a few months.
Yeah. Great dude.
Great.
I work with him at Sportsnet. He's the nicest guy.
Yeah. So I'm like, fast forward here, whatever, it's been 17 years later.
So that story popped up. So that came up organically. So Brad May said he phoned me on the way to the when I was on the way to the rink for the Dallas game on Friday, and he goes, Jamie, I will come on the pod, but I'm only coming on if I can talk about Luke Schenn the whole time. So it'll be fun. Brad May is one of the best storytellers out there. Great guys we touched on, but I thought that was very funny that story kind of popped up, and they had a lot of fun together. And I think we'll get into it a little bit further with Luke with Brad when he joins us here momentarily.
Yeah, looking forward to it. He should be joining us in about 5 minutes, but let's get you set for tonight's game quickly before he is able to join us. So, as we mentioned, they are playing in Seattle. This is the third and final meeting between these two clubs. The Jets have won 4-3 in their October meeting, and then 2-1 as well. 8 of their last 9 games have been decided by 1 goal. And when you look, because of the time change, so 2 hours beforehand, the Jets have already been on the ice. It was a 10 a.m. morning skate. The lines came out from the always dependable Mitchell Clinton, who pointed out that everything remains the same that we saw in the last game in terms of your lines up front, as well as your D pairings. The change, though, is in net. Eric Comrie is going to get the start, which should not be a surprise given the number of starts that we have seen in the last little bit from Connor Hellebuyck. Usually every 3 to 4 games, after every 3 to 4 starts for Connor, they usually put Eric in net, and he will get the call this evening.
Yeah, like he's played so well, and I don't think we can really go into as far out as much because he's just been so good this year. There was that stretch there for a bit where the Jets just couldn't score when he was in net. That has not been the case for his last few starts. He's been great. So, and the fact that you haven't changed the lineup is not a surprise. Still unfortunate that the Jets are going to be without Neil Pionk for a while, but again, that ties into the trade that they made and brought in Luke Schenn. Him and Dylan Sandberg alongside one another were fantastic. Luke Schenn had a big hit in the first period, some more block shots. It was great to see Colin Miller back in the lineup, and he filled in nicely with Hayden Fleury. So right now the Jets look like with Neil Pionk out of the lineup, I think their 3 defense pairings still look very solid going forward here for the amount of time that Neil Pionk's going to be out of the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we keep an eye on what's going on with the Central Division and the wild card standings, really you see the impact
that. Ready?
Okay. Boom. Look at that. Boom.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets up on top. Vancouver Canucks in that second wildcard spot right now, which makes the next game that much more interesting, since it could be what we see in the first round for it as well. The Jets continuing to have so much success also when leading after 1, leading after 2, 36-0-1. They are the only team in the NHL that does not have a regulation loss after leading after 40 minutes. One of the things to keep an eye out for tonight, you think about the production that Kyle Connor had, a couple goals in the last game, the job that top line did. Kyle Connor has played 11 games against Seattle. He has points in 10 of them.
Right.
So I'm not a gambler, and I don't, but I'm just saying that
With
maybe if there's something out there,
yes,
or if you have him on your fantasy team,
right,
maybe that's who you want to make sure you have started today.
Yeah, and 2 more goals for Kyle Connor the other night, and Mark Scheifele had 3 assists. Like that's where we were going with, and what Kevin Sawyer had said. The top line delivered, and the top line tends to deliver against Seattle as well. Where it's clear that Seattle is thinking about next year with the moves they made. Brandon Tanev returning back to Seattle.
The big return.
The big return. So we'll see what kind of video he gets out of that one. It's been he had a good stretch of time there, but man, like here's another thing that happened on Friday. Tanev takes a puck off the helmet. And then the Jets end up scoring afterwards. But the fact is that he waved off the bench. The best part is he like shakes it off and it goes like this, the bench, that he's fine when they're trying to figure out if they wanted somebody to go back out there. But what a fit he's been with Morgan Barron and Alex Iafallo. I love that fourth line. I feel that fourth line can go up against other teams' best lines as well. So there goes into the depth that the team has. You don't necessarily have to run Adam Lowry's line up against them. You don't have to worry about going best on best with Mark Scheifele's line as well. You can also throw Morgan Barron's line out against the other team's best players as well. And that's a huge benefit for Scott Arniel going forward here.
Absolutely. One of the things with Brandon Tanev, we know how happy Jets fans are to have him back. And we've seen that in the comments. And we showed on Friday when I did the interview with him before the game that we ran, and the number of comments on the different platforms that we posted of Seattle Kraken fans saying how much they miss him and wish that he was back. That this will be one where fans will certainly be excited in Seattle to be able to see him, disappointed that he's no longer there. But the great news, when you look at Brandon Tanev and his acquisition here, is that not only is he producing off the ice, selfishly, this has been a great fit off the ice as well, because we have the newest episode of Runway that's going to debut this evening. You'll see a portion of it when you're watching the broadcast on TSN in the first intermission. And this episode focuses entirely on trade deadline and trade deadline day. And you think about the job. I mean, you mentioned Luke Schenn. You've already had him on the podcast. So, and then Brandon Tanev is central in this episode as well. And it's been great to be able to see what he's done. We're excited to be able to show the behind the scenes as well and give people a little bit of a taste of what that day was like from the hockey ops standpoint with Kevin Cheveldayoff, Larry Simmons and company that were set up in Philadelphia, and then from the player perspective as well, which I believe you have a trailer for.
Top team. There's opportunity there for Kevin Cheveldayoff.
We really just set up our whole operation there in Philly. We have some breaking news. Luke Schenn on his way to Winnipeg for a second and a fourth rounder from Pittsburgh.
Hey, like we're really excited to bring you to the organization here. And
Winnipeg trades to Seattle in exchange for player Brandon Tanev. Thanks, buddy.
Congrats, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, you got it.
all right, see you, buddy. Good to see you. Welcome back.
Kevin Cheveldayoff has had to do that balancing act, but what they did add is two guys that are going to help in many ways.
You know what? You undersold me on that one. You said that you weren't sure about the cameras and the access you were going to have. And you're like, I don't know what we're going to get. And all of a sudden I see this stuff. So you totally undersold me on this one. I believe this is going to be your best one. I truly do.
You know what?
Sean Monahan won.
Well, it's great. And to be able to, the hockey operations department allowed us into the room with them parts. We were able to see when Brandon Tanev was able to meet Kevin Cheveldayoff and company at the hotel, because Seattle was in Philadelphia. So that's how he was able, if you remember, that's how he was able to get into the lineup immediately after being traded, because it was only an hour and a half drive. But we've got it covered for you. So looking forward to that episode tonight. And the full episode, of course, you can always catch on YouTube. So you want to make sure that you don't miss out on that. One of the things with this Jets team that you want to keep an eye out for as we look longer term throughout the rest of this regular season. Here's a couple of things. They need 7 more wins for a new franchise record in wins out of their remaining games. They need 10 points in any fashion to clinch a playoff spot for the 7th time in 8 years. There is this team, as we mentioned about the game in Dallas, looking forward to seeing how this team responds on the road. They have the 3rd best road record in the NHL. And what is one of the things that maybe you're keeping an eye on when they're going up against a team like the Kraken, who's outside of the playoff picture, but obviously a team that you can't take lightly?
Yeah, well, there was a comment a little bit earlier in the chat room about how Seattle's playing well after the trade deadline, which is that happens quite a bit when teams kind of take themselves out of the running for a playoff spot. The pressure comes off, and then you can play a little, and guys are getting opportunities that weren't going to get opportunities earlier before. So I saw also another comment, is this a trap game? I don't believe the Jets are, because of what's happened in years past, I don't think the Jets have ever taken any game where they've looked at it, oh, they've got this one, no problem. Yes, they have confidence they're going to win, but I don't think they look past anybody. I think they proved that on Tuesday when they played the Rangers, was such a huge game against Dallas coming on Friday. So I just think you stick to the system that they played. Seattle doesn't have the dangerous players that, Dallas does, or even the Rangers did the other night. So if you stick within that structure that they've been playing so well, I don't think the Jets are going to be, overrun by these guys. Lots of times when they've been to Seattle, they've played the night before, they travel in. I'll tell you this, every time I went to Seattle, there's always an issue at the border. There's always like one person there. There'd be a long lineup. We wouldn't get to the hotel till 3:00 in the morning. I don't know if they do it on purpose. I don't know. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just telling you what happened. This time they don't have that issue. So we'll have to see how prepared they are for this one. And I don't have any doubt with the roster and the guys they've been putting out lately that they should find success this evening.
Since we're keeping with the theme of Luke and Brandon throughout this one, what do you think of Tanev's job on that 4th line and the way that they have been able to gel in short order?
I think because of what Brandon Tanev brings is that intangible, he just never stops moving, never stops going. You've added some more speed, and that allows you to get in the forecheck a lot faster. He hits. I really like what Morgan Barron has done up the middle. I think this is a great move by Scott Arniel to add a bigger body up the middle of the ice for you on their 4th line. And I don't think there's and Alex Iafallo is that guy where you can throw anywhere in his lineup. So I think they fit together quite well. And it's quite amazing how quickly that does. And Tanev talked about whenever you play with good players, chemistry always comes quickly. And certainly Morgan Barron and Alex Iafallo are good players. And that has worked out so far as well. And I don't see how this doesn't continue to work going forward.
Yeah, it's just a great example of the depth that this organization has across the 4 lines now, and how they're able to get contributions in different ways. You mentioned about the energy, the jump that Tanev has. Some of the shots that we have in this upcoming Runway episode make me laugh, because while young, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of life, he's 33 years old, and some of the hops that he has to get on the board, I mean, he is just lightning quick. He's got so much energy with him. It's fun to watch. I like one of the things that I was talking about with a number of different colleagues on broadcasts in recent times was that I just like the dynamic of this team and the
Yeah.
style of game that they play. You think about the success that we've seen in some of the other teams across the league, and to be honest, some of the games become a little bit dry.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's not always entertaining hockey. It's effective, but it's not always entertaining. This is entertaining hockey that the Winnipeg Jets are playing.
Yeah, it is. And like this is a good point by Ersteel too. She just pointed out, like, remember when Tanev had that breakaway, the building was set to erupt. Like that was the start the Jets had. And if Brandon Tanev scores there, I think, it's the roof's coming off the building. And I remember he had that hat trick against Boston. People love Brandon Tanev here because he's a blue collar guy in a blue collar city. And that's why his energy is infectious. The fans love him because there's just, his efforts out there every night. And I'm not questioning anybody's other effort, but the fact that he's going so fast is so easy to see the energy that he provides for the organization on the ice. So you have to love the way that he plays and what he's done early on in his reemergence with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, for those that have been joining us late, the morning skate has finished in Seattle. Your lines and your pairings remain the same. No surprise there. That really, with the success that they've been having, short of injury, you wouldn't be expecting to see any changes there. The one change is that Eric Comrie is going to get the start against Connor Hellebuyck. And I think that when you look at the way that they have tried to manage the games for Hellebuyck in terms of starting 3, maybe 4 games in a row and then getting Comrie in, it's no surprise that this would be the game that he's in. And I'm so disappointed because somewhere in my book, and that I love to have my notebook always around me, somewhere I had the latest stats for Eric Comrie, and I don't know why I can't seem to find it, but his goals against average, when you look since January 1st, has been under 2. He's got a high save percentage, and this will be the 5th time that he's played Seattle in his career. Numbers weren't great before, but that's obviously not indicative of where Eric Comrie is. Also, the way that he's played this season, the team that's in front of him. So looking forward to this one. If you haven't had the chance to check out the home ice that we did with him, you definitely want to, because as everybody knows, Brandon Tanev's a fan favorite. For a different reason, Eric Comrie is as well, as he's got a great personality. I don't think I've ever had Jamie on the phone before while we're in the middle of the show. I just looked up right now.
Well, so I've been trying to reach Brad May, and I was texting him to see if he's ready to go. And as you know, where it says delivered on the old phone, it's not going through. So I just phoned him to see if he was going to come on the show. No answer. So we're efforting Brad May as we speak. But carry on, Sarah. I apologize for being so rude.
No, not at all.
Work done.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. As does everybody in the chat. If you haven't had the chance to answer yet, we did put up an informal question for today. We want to know from you, since we haven't done a question in a long time, we do want to know now, when you look at the Jets' effort against Dallas, the fact that they have the 10-point lead, do you feel confident that the Jets are going to be able to finish this season as Central Division champs? What's your opinion on it? Jamie, you mentioned earlier on that Dallas and Colorado are playing this afternoon. That is a game that is going to have a lot of eyes on it with the return of Mikko Rantanen. And of course, Dallas and Winnipeg still play one more time this season on April the 10th.
Yeah, that game is massive. And for Dallas, it's a big, kind of like a bounce back game that they're going to have. But for Colorado, this is what Jets fans are all hoping for. Please, those two run into one another in the opening round of the playoffs. Beat each other up, and then hopefully Winnipeg gets past the first round. But certainly Winnipeg has locked down, it seems like at this time, the Central Division title, which is, if you think about it, would be a nice banner in the rafters of Canada Life Center next year. But it's just a big, important step forward for them to start the Stanley Cup playoffs, which are coming up faster than we think.
Yes, I love to see so many people in the chat right now, talking, whether it be about Eric Comrie, what they have liked in terms of shifting some of the lines around with Morgan Barron moving into the middle. Lots to like about what we have seen so far. As mentioned, this is the start of a 3-game road trip for the Jets: Seattle, Vancouver, Edmonton. Then they come home. You have only, 6 games left at home before the end of the regular season, and already you can just continue to feel the anticipation amp up as people get excited for, although it is not officially clinched yet, get excited for the whiteout. It should be a great one this year.
And then they're going back and forth, of course, with the Washington Capitals for the President's Trophy race. Washington's here on March 25th, and you even think further down the road with the way Alexander Ovechkin is scoring, could that be the game that he breaks the record? Looks a little less likely.
He would need 2 goals a game, including that. So he needs 2 goals a game, including 2 goals against Winnipeg. Yeah. If he got 2 goals a game, including his 2 against Winnipeg, he would get to 8. But what a remarkable run he has had. And you and I have talked about him before when they played in Washington. And to see him do what he's doing at his age, and having been injured this season, still being able to come back and do it. I have so much respect for players that continue to play at this level in their late 30s. I mean, at the end of the day.
Well, here's the other thing too, Sarah, with him is just like, imagine if he's close and the circus starts coming, then you would think that Wayne Gretzky is going to be here. Gary Bettman would be here for that situation. So, I mean, I know.
Do you think they would all come on the check-in?
I think, well, duh.
Do you imagine if we had a check-in show and we were able to get 99 and to come on with us for a bit?
Yeah, that
or the commissioner.
I think that would put us in another level of viewers, so that's for sure. So that would be some pull to watch the episode for sure. But we are looking a little further down the road because it's so exciting, and we're stalling here because I'm hoping Brad May will join us, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So he's going to owe me one.
Well, you know what? Think about, we've had this. It's always so challenging, especially, I don't know if people fully appreciate how challenging it can be to get some of the guests, but especially on a Sunday. A lot of people have a lot of stuff going on. When it happened to us with Nick Kypreos, the great thing was that he came on again and he was great with his stories. So we will just say that Brad owes check-in and Winnipeg Jets fans, and he's going to have to bring the stories. We're going to expand beyond just Luke, because I would love to know with Brad. He played on so many teams, over 1,000 games, which is incredible. And I saw someone in the chat, Mayday, which is one of the most iconic calls out of Buffalo Sabres history.
Yeah, Rick Jenneret, yes.
Yeah, it was huge. And it's what you associate most with Brad May. But for someone that started in the early 90s and played through into the 2000s and into the 2000s, I think 2009-10 was his last season with Detroit.
Incredible.
To see the evolution of the game, not just on the ice, because he was obviously involved in several lockouts, but really off the ice too. You think about the way that players approach the season in the early 90s versus, fitness, health, everything like that compared to the end. So we'll have to ask him about that. We are going to make sure that, although he's not able to join us today, that we are able to get him on sometime soon, because he is a great storyteller.
Yeah, Brad will deliver for sure. And like you said, Nick Kypreos had made good, and he made up for sure. So Jets will take on the Seattle Kraken tonight, hopefully to keep the winning streak going, keeping the pressure on the Dallas Stars for first place in the Central Division with another win. It'll be Eric Comrie in goal. Exact same lineup as you saw on Friday against the Dallas Stars.
And they have the opportunity to sweep the season series. As I mentioned earlier, 8 of the last 9 games between these two clubs decided by 1 goal. The Jets winning 4-3 in October, 2-1 in January. Connor Hellebuck started both of those games, but Eric Comrie gets the nod tonight, and looking forward to a great one.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. A lot of you did. I appreciate that on a busy Sunday morning or afternoon, sorry for that matter. Enjoy the game tonight, Kraken and Jets, as they begin a 3-game road trip out west.
And we will see you all on Tuesday. Make sure to join us. Thanks so much today for checking in.
See you, everybody.